Inside the cockpit of the gigantic robotic head known as Gypsy Danger, Mako, Raleigh, and Yancey from Pacific Rim are seen attempting to establish a neutral link. However, their inner turmoil and emotional baggage prevent them from fully connecting. The controllers suddenly alert them that the neutral link is out of alignment. Raleigh and Yancey start to get shaken, their movements becoming erratic as they struggle to regain control. But Mako remains frozen, standing motionless and unresponsive. Mako, snap out of it. The controller urges, trying to break through to her. Gypsy, you're out of alignment. Come back online. Raleigh and Yancey start to call out to Mako, trying to reach her. Mako, don't get trapped in the memory. Come back to us. They pled, their voices laced with concern. But despite their repeated calls, Mako remains frozen, her eyes glazed over as if lost in a distant memory. The tension builds as the controllers and Raleigh and Yancey try to revive Mako, but she remains unresponsive, trapped in her own inner world. The neutral link, once a powerful tool for connecting with the Jaeger, now seems to be a liability, threatening to tear the team apart. Yancey and Raleigh's voices are laced with concern as they try to reach out to Mako. Mako, are you hearing us? Mako, respond. But Mako remains trapped in her memory, reliving a tragic event from her past. As a child, Mako had lost what she loved the most to a giant kaiju. The memory of that terrible day is still etched in her mind, and now it's consuming her. She's transported back to that fateful moment, reliving the horror and the pain. Mako's eyes glaze over, and her body remains motionless, unresponsive to Raleigh and Yancey's calls. She's trapped inside her own mind, forced to confront the traumatic memories she's tried to keep buried. Raleigh and Yancey try to shake her out of it. Mako, come back to us. We need you. But Mako's stuck in the past, reliving the tragedy that shaped her into the person she is today. The neutral link, meant to connect her with the Jaeger, has instead become a conduit to her darkest memories. Raleigh and Yancey's eyes widen in shock as they enter Mako's mind and witness the traumatic memories that have consumed her. Oh my god, she's trapped in a memory. Raleigh exclaims, his voice laced with concern. Yancey tries to shake Mako out of her trance-like state. Mako, respond. Snap out of it. But Mako remains unresponsive, her mind still reliving the horrors of her past. In her memory, Mako's screams echo through the cockpit, causing her to involuntarily raise her right arm in the real world. The sudden movement inadvertently activates the plasma cannon, and the AI display in the cockpit flashes a warning message, plasma cannon activated. Charging. The same warning message appears on the AI screen in the controller room, sending the team into a state of panic. We need to disconnect the neural link, now. One of the controllers shouts, frantically typing away at their console. But time is running out. The plasma cannon is glowing, and the countdown to detonation has begun. Raleigh and Yancey's faces are etched with worry as they desperately try to find a way to stop Mako from accidentally firing the cannon. We're running out of time. Yancey warns, his voice rising in urgency. We need to shut down the neural link, or we'll all be blown to kingdom come. The team's fingers fly across their consoles, racing against the clock to prevent a catastrophic accident. Raleigh and Yancey's eyes widen in shock as they enter Mako's mind and witness the traumatic memories that have consumed her. Oh my god, she's trapped in a memory. Raleigh exclaims, his voice laced with concern. Yancey tries to shake Mako out of her trance-like state. Mako, respond. Snap out of it. But Mako remains unresponsive, her mind still reliving the horrors of her past. In her memory, Mako's screams echo through the cockpit, causing her to involuntarily raise her right arm in the real world. The sudden movement inadvertently activates the plasma cannon, and the AI display in the cockpit flashes a warning message, plasma cannon activated. Charging. The same warning message appears on the AI screen in the controller room, sending the team into a state of panic. We need to disconnect the neural link, now. One of the controllers shouts, frantically typing away at their console. What's happening? Why isn't she responding? Another controller asks, her voice trembling with fear. We're trying to shut down the neural link, but it's not responding. A third controller replies, his fingers flying across his console. We're running out of time. Yancey warns, his voice rising in urgency. We need to shut down the neural link, or we'll all be blown to kingdom come. Try to override the system. Raleigh shouts, his eyes fixed on Mako's motionless form. I'm trying, but it's not working. A controller responds, her voice laced with desperation. We need to think of something, fast. Yancey exclaims, his face pale with worry. Suddenly, one of the controllers slams his fist on the console. I've got it. We can use the emergency shutdown protocol. Do it. Raleigh and Yancey shout in unison, their eyes fixed on the countdown timer. The controller's fingers fly across the console, typing in the shutdown code. The countdown timer freezes, and the plasma cannon's energy output begins to drop. Mako's arm slowly lowers, and her eyes flicker open, confused and disoriented. The team breathes a collective sigh of relief as the crisis is averted, but they know that Mako's traumatic memories are still a ticking time bomb, waiting to unleash their fury once again. Raleigh and Yancey's eyes widen in shock as they enter Mako's mind and witness the traumatic memories that have consumed her. Oh my god, she's trapped in a memory. Raleigh exclaims, his voice laced with concern. Yancey tries to shake Mako out of her trance-like state. Mako, respond. Snap out of it. But Mako remains unresponsive, her mind still reliving the horrors of her past. In her memory, Mako's screams echo through the cockpit, causing her to involuntarily raise her right arm in the real world. The sudden movement inadvertently activates the plasma cannon, and the AI display in the cockpit flashes a warning message, plasma cannon activated. Charging. The same warning message appears on the AI screen in the controller room, sending the team into a state of panic. We need to disconnect the neural link, now. One of the controllers shouts, frantically typing away at their console. What's happening? Why isn't she responding? Another controller asks, her voice trembling with fear. We're trying to shut down the neural link, but it's not responding. A third controller replies, his fingers flying across his console. We're running out of time. Yancey warns, his voice rising in urgency. We need to shut down the neural link, or we'll all be blown to kingdom come. Try to override the system. Raleigh shouts, his eyes fixed on Mako's motionless form. I'm trying, but it's not working. A controller responds, her voice laced with desperation. We need to think of something, fast. Yancy exclaims, his face pale with worry. As the countdown timer ticks away, the plasma cannon starts to glow brighter and brighter. Raleigh and Yancy call out to Mako in their loud voices, trying to snap her out of her trance-like state. Mako, no. Raleigh shouts, his voice hoarse with fear. Mako, stop. Yancy yells, his eyes fixed on Mako's unresponsive form. But Mako remains frozen, her mind still trapped in the past. The team is running out of time, and they're still struggling to find a way to stop the accident. We're still not shutting down. A controller warns, her voice rising in panic. We need to hurry. The plasma cannon glows brighter and brighter, its energy output increasing by the second. The team is in a rush, their fingers flying across their consoles as they desperately try to find a way to stop the accident before it's too late. Raleigh and Yancy's voices grow hoarse as they continue to scream Mako's name, trying to snap her out of her trance-like state. Mako. Wake up. Raleigh yells, his voice echoing through the cockpit. Mako, snap out of it. Yancy shouts, his eyes fixed on Mako's unresponsive form. They continue to scream her name, their voices growing more desperate and urgent as the countdown timer ticks away. Mako, please. Respond. Raleigh pleads, his voice cracking with emotion. Mako, we need you. Yancy yells, his face pale with worry. But Mako remains frozen, her mind still trapped in the past. The plasma cannon continues to glow brighter and brighter, its energy output increasing by the second. The team is running out of time, and Raleigh and Yancy's voices are their last hope to reach Mako and snap her out of her trance-like state. The stacker, the team's technical expert, is frantically typing away on his console, his eyes scanning the screens as he desperately searches for a solution to stop the plasma cannon. Come on, come on, come on. He mutters to himself, his fingers flying across the keyboard. But despite his best efforts, the stacker is taking too long to find a solution. The countdown timer is ticking away, and the plasma cannon is getting closer and closer to detonation. Raleigh and Yancy are still screaming Mako's name, trying to snap her out of her trance-like state. But the stacker's slow progress is making it clear that they're running out of time. Stacker, what's taking so long? Raleigh yells, his voice laced with frustration. I'm trying, I'm trying. The stacker responds, his face pale with panic. But the system is not responding. I need more time. But time is something they don't have. The plasma cannon is seconds away from detonation, and the team is on the brink of disaster. As the team quickly disconnects the plug, the plasma cannon slowly powers down, and the arm lowers down, releasing the tension in the cockpit. The cannon grows dimmer and dimmer, and Mako is finally free from her traumatic memory, snapping out of her trance-like state. However, Mako is clearly traumatized, her eyes vacant and her face pale. Raleigh and Yancy continue to call out her name, trying to reassure her, but she's slow to respond. Yancy and Raleigh quickly remove their helmets and rush towards Mako, grabbing her by her arms and trying to calm and comfort her. They speak softly, trying to soothe her, but Mako's eyes are still glazed over, her mind reeling from the traumatic memories she's just relived. As they try to comfort Mako, the screen shifts to show Yancy and Raleigh sitting on the floor, their arms on their knees, looking upset and depressed. Their eyes are dry, but their faces are etched with concern and worry. They're clearly shaken by what Mako has just witnessed, and they're struggling to process their own emotions. The scene is somber and intense, the tension and fear of the previous moments still lingering in the air. The team's relief at avoiding disaster is tempered by their concern for Mako, and the knowledge that she's been through a traumatic experience that will take time to heal. As they sit on the floor, Yancy and Raleigh are aimlessly staring at Mako, their faces etched with concern and worry. They're both heavily depressed and upset, unsure of how to deal with the turmoil and grief that Mako is experiencing. The silence in the room is oppressive, punctuated only by the soft hum of the Jaeger systems. Yancy and Raleigh are frozen in place, unsure of what to say or do to comfort Mako. They're both thinking the same thing, how can they help Mako overcome the traumatic memories that are haunting her? They know that they can't just sit back and do nothing, but they're unsure of what to do. As they stare at Mako, they can see the pain and suffering etched on her face. They can see the fear and anxiety in her eyes, and it's tearing them apart. Yancy finally breaks the silence, his voice barely above a whisper. What do we do, Raleigh? How do we help her? Raleigh shakes his head, his eyes still fixed on Mako. I don't know, Yancy. I just don't know. The two men sit in silence for a moment, unsure of what to do next. They know that they need to find a way to help Mako, but they're not sure where to start. As Mako continues to grieve, Yancy and Raleigh are visibly struggling with their own inner turmoil. Their faces are etched with concern, worry, and empathy, as they try to process the trauma that Mako has endured. Yancy's eyes are downcast, his brow furrowed in a mixture of sadness and frustration. He's trying to find the right words to comfort Mako, but they're not coming. Raleigh's face is pale, his eyes sunken with worry. He's trying to stay strong for Mako, but it's clear that he's struggling to cope with his own emotions. Both brothers are visibly shaken, their usual confidence and bravado replaced by uncertainty and vulnerability. They're facing their own inner turmoil, as they try to come to terms with the trauma that Mako has experienced. The silence in the room is oppressive, punctuated only by Mako's soft sobs. Yancy and Raleigh are frozen in place, unsure of what to do next. As they sit there, they're forced to confront their own emotions, their own vulnerabilities. They're forced to confront the reality of what Mako has endured, and the impact it's had on her. The scene is one of raw emotion, of vulnerability, and of uncertainty. Yancy and Raleigh are struggling to cope with their own emotions, as they try to find a way to comfort Mako. Yancy and Raleigh slowly get up and approach Mako, their faces filled with concern and empathy. They sit down on either side of her, putting a gentle hand on her shoulders. Mako, we're here for you, Yancy says softly, his voice filled with compassion. We're not going to leave you alone. Raleigh nods in agreement, his eyes filled with sadness. We'll get through this together, Mako. We'll find a way to make it right. Mako looks up at them, her eyes red and puffy from crying. She takes a deep breath, trying to compose herself. But Yancy and Raleigh can see the pain and trauma still etched on her face. They can see the fear and uncertainty in her eyes. And they don't know what to do. They look at each other, unsure of how to proceed. They've never dealt with something like this before. What can we do, Raleigh? Yancy asks, his voice barely above a whisper. Raleigh shakes his head. I don't know, Yancy. I just don't know. The three of them sit there in silence, unsure of what to do next. They're trapped in a state of limbo, unable to move forward. As they sit there, the weight of Mako's trauma hangs in the air, a constant reminder of the pain and suffering she's endured. Mako's eyes well up with tears again, and she buries her face in her hands, overcome with emotion. Her body shakes with sobs, and her breathing is ragged. Yancy and Raleigh sit beside her, helpless to stop her tears. They try to comfort her, putting their arms around her, but she's too far gone. Her grief is like a tidal wave, crashing over her and pulling her under. She's trapped in a sea of sorrow, unable to escape. As she cries, the brothers can feel her pain and heartbreak. They can sense the depth of her emotional wounds, and it breaks their hearts. Mako, we're here for you, Yancy whispers, his voice cracking with emotion. We'll always be here for you. Raleigh nods, his eyes filled with tears. We'll get through this together, Mako. We'll find a way to heal. But Mako's pain is too raw, too fresh. She can't hear their words, can't feel their comfort. She's lost in her own world of grief, and she can't find her way out. Mako's sobs slowly subside, and she looks up at Yancy and Raleigh with tear-stained eyes. Her voice is barely above a whisper, but it's filled with emotion. I saw it again, she says, her voice cracking. I saw the day my family died. I saw the kaiju, its face, its eyes. I saw everything. She takes a deep breath, trying to compose herself. I thought I was over it, she continues. I thought I had moved on. But it's still there, inside me. The pain, the fear, it's all still there. Mako's eyes drop, and she looks down at her hands, clenched into fists. I don't know how to make it stop, she whispers. I don't know how to make the pain go away. Yancy and Raleigh exchange a concerned glance, unsure of how to respond. They can see the depth of Mako's emotional pain, and they know that it won't be easy to heal. Yancy and Raleigh sit on the floor, their backs against the wall, their faces etched with despair. They're listening to Mako, their eyes fixed on her as she speaks in a heartbroken tone. I remember the sound of the kaiju's roar, Mako says, her voice barely above a whisper. I remember the feeling of the ground shaking beneath my feet. I remember the smell of smoke and fire. She pauses, taking a deep breath. I remember my parents' screams, she continues. I remember the sound of their voices, calling out to me. I remember the feeling of being alone, of being scared. Yancy and Raleigh look at each other, their eyes filled with tears. They can feel Mako's pain, her heartbreak. They can sense the depth of her emotional wounds. We're here for you, Mako, Yancy says, his voice cracking with emotion. We'll always be here for you. Raleigh nods, his eyes fixed on Mako. We'll help you through this, he says. We'll help you heal. But Mako just shakes her head, her eyes filled with tears. You can't heal this, she says. You can't fix this. This is something that will always be with me. The brothers look at each other, unsure of what to say. They know that Mako is right. They know that some wounds run too deep, that some scars will never fully heal. Raleigh's voice is barely above a whisper, his words trembling with emotion. I don't know what to say, Mako, he says, his eyes filled with tears. I don't know how to make this better. Yancy nods in agreement, his face etched with concern. We're here for you, Mako, he says, his voice soft and soothing. We'll do whatever it takes to help you through this. Mako looks up at them, her eyes red and puffy from crying. She takes a deep breath, trying to compose herself. Raleigh and Yancy continue to soothe and comfort her, their words and actions a gentle balm to her wounded soul. They sit with her in silence, their presence a reminder that she's not alone. As they sit there, the tension in the room slowly begins to dissipate. The air is still thick with emotion, but it's no longer oppressive. Instead, it's a sense of shared sorrow, of communal grief. Raleigh and Yancy are visibly upset, their faces etched with concern and empathy. But they're also determined to be there for Mako, to support her through this difficult time. As they sit in silence, the only sound is Mako's quiet sobs. But even those slowly begin to subside, replaced by an uneasy calm. It's a fragile piece, one that could shatter at any moment. But for now, it's enough. Raleigh's face is a mask of tearless upset, his eyes filled with a deep sadness. His tone is barely above a whisper, his words trembling with emotion. Mako, we're here for you, he says, his voice cracking with concern. Yancy sits on the floor, his back against the wall, his eyes cast down at the ground. He's upset and depressed, his face etched with worry and fear. He's trying to comfort Mako, but he's struggling to find the words. Mako continues to talk to them in her heartbroken tone, her words pouring out like a river. I just feel so lost, she says, her voice barely above a whisper. I feel like I'm drowning in my own grief. Raleigh and Yancy exchange a concerned glance, their faces etched with worry. They're trying to comfort Mako, but they're not sure how. They're not sure what to say or do to make her feel better. Yancy slowly gets up from the floor, his movements slow and deliberate. He walks over to Mako, his eyes filled with compassion. Mako, we're here for you, he says, his voice soft and soothing. We'll get through this together. Raleigh nods in agreement, his face still etched with concern. We'll do whatever it takes to help you, he says, his voice filled with determination. We'll be here for you, no matter what. The scene shifts to show Yancy and Mako lying on a bed, both of them resting on their left sides. Mako's eyes are closed, her chest rising and falling with each gentle breath. Yancy's eyes are also closed, his face relaxed in a peaceful expression. The camera pans out to show Raleigh sitting on the floor, his back against the bed. He's staring at Mako's back, his eyes fixed on her gentle form. There's no dialogue, just the sound of gentle breathing and the soft rustle of the bed sheets. As the moments tick by, Raleigh's eyelids start to droop. He's clearly exhausted, both physically and emotionally. He leans forward, his head nodding towards the floor. Slowly, Raleigh's body relaxes, and he starts to lie down on the floor. His eyes close, and his chest rises and falls with each gentle breath. The camera lingers on the three of them, showing them in a peaceful, serene moment. The tension and drama of the previous scenes are forgotten, replaced by a sense of calm and tranquility. As the scene fades to black, the story comes to a close, leaving the audience with a sense of hope and renewal. Despite the challenges and traumas they've faced, Yancy, Mako, and Raleigh have found a sense of peace and comfort in each other's company.